Okay, this is my review of Star Trek Picard, Episode 10, titled The Last Generation, Season 3. And this is the season finale and the series finale. And wow, what an episode. This episode was longer than usual. It was 1 hour, 2 minutes and 53 seconds. So we're getting an action-packed episode, and it's kind of so much to cram in. Loads of action, as I can say, and lots of heartfelt moments and lots of emotion. Also, we pick up from the events of last episode, where Jack's been taken over by the Borg Queen. Also, Captain Leon Shaw ends up sacrificing himself to saving the crew of the Titan and the crew and the original crew. And also, we get to see a very familiar starship, and that's the Enterprise D. And what I loved about that is that they actually explained, obviously, after the events of Star Trek Generations, obviously, where the saucer section crashed on Viridian 3. And obviously, they had to take the saucer section back, because obviously the Prime Directive, if people obviously find the technology. So that's kind of explained. And the fact that Geordi has been restoring the Enterprise D, which he was hoping to show all of them, but obviously he's gonna have to do it sooner rather than later, because obviously with the new starships being tied into the same grid, so they all act as one, which I don't know whose bright idea that was. And obviously with the Enterprise D being on a much older ship, it's not connected to the actual grid, so the Borg don't end up having any control of it. And obviously, as we know, that's the young infected, and Starfleet are infected by the Borg, and the young aboard the USS Titan are affected as well. And if you remember, we have the Next Generation crew leaving to go to Venusium to get to the Enterprise D, leaving Seven of Nine and Rafu aboard the Titan. And then obviously we pick up obviously in this episode, where what I thought was really great with the actual intro, they do a completely new intro with the Enterprise D, and then with the Borg effects in it as well, which I thought was really kind of fantastic. Obviously, we see Seven of Nine and what's left of the USS Titan crew trying to stop the infected crew. And obviously they don't want to kill them, obviously, because they're under the control of the Borg. And then they find a way of stopping them and confining them, which works. But obviously with the rest of the ships, obviously they're trying to attack Space Dock, so that they can lower the shields of Earth, so that they can start assimilating the people obviously aboard Earth. And obviously that doesn't bode well with the amount of ships that have been kind of taken over. We get a speech from the Earth president, who is voiced by a very familiar actor. You'll recognize the voice. All I'll say is for those of you who are fans of the original Star Trek, you'll recognize the voice. Also, when you see the president's name, and he's meant to be a descendant of somebody. And I loved how they used, if you look at the person's first name, there's a reference to a certain actor who played a certain character, who the character is kind of related to. All I'll say there is the Kelvin universe there. So that so that was a nice little Easter egg. I wasn't kind of expecting that. Obviously, we then go back aboard the Enterprise D. Obviously, they're trying to find the Borg cube, and they do find it. And this particular Borg cube is much bigger than the Borg cube that we've ever seen. And it's basically a matter of trying to locate where Jack is, because obviously with him being connected to the collective, with him being one voice, it's going to be hard to kind of isolate him. So now they basically have to split up it into two teams. One team in finding Jack, and obviously that's going to be Picard, because he feels like it's his duty. And as his father, And then we have Riker and Worf then having to locate the center of the Borg cube so that they can destroy that part of the Borg ship, so that they can't relay use their stuff as a relay to control the rest of the infected Starfleet officers. And obviously we get like a very emotional Data knowing that he knows a lot about the Borg, but they need him to stay aboard the Enterprise D just in case anything does happen. And then obviously we flash back between Enterprise D and the Titan, where Seven of Nine obviously now in charge of the ship. They kind of realized that the Enterprise D is trying to stop the Borg ship, so now they're trying to buy them some time. So then it's basically them versus the rest of the affected fleet, which is a no-win scenario. But luckily, obviously, they have the cloak device, so it makes it harder for the infected Starfleet ships to then find them. So it's basically them trying to save space dock, which I think Seven of Nine does an excellent job and shows her captain skills and how good she is in dealing with this situation with the help of Raffi and some of the Starfleet officers that haven't been infected. Even a cook, obviously turned pilot. Now, one of the things that I did notice aboard that particular scene was that in all these Star Trek shows that we've ever watched, we know that there's different coloured Starfleet uniforms that they normally wear. So obviously there's red for command, and there's usually gold for engineering, and blue for medical. But this is the first time I've ever seen a white uniform, and obviously that was for the cooking crew. And so that's the first time I've ever seen it. Now I have seen the chefs or people who cook aboard Star Trek shows before, like Star Trek Enterprise, and even in the original series, I think in Star Trek 6, but never, I've seen him in the proper uniform, but just with a different colour. So this was kind of completely, like new. So basically, there's both teams beam aboard the Borg cube, but what they find really strange is that normally where there should be loads of Borg around, there's barely any of them around, which you could argue whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Now, what I want to say is that with my review, that may contain spoilers, so I will put it in the title. And so if you haven't watched this episode before, right, watch the episode and then come back for my review. But I will put this in the title as well, because I've only just obviously I'm nearly 10 minutes in and I've just mentioned it. But obviously I'm hoping that most people have watched this before they watch the review, because you don't want anything kind of spoiled anyway. So there's a part of the Borg cube. So the Borg cube, most of the Borg are actually decaying, and it's like something's is feeding off of the Borg. Then Picard parts company with Worf and Riker to find his son. And obviously there's a part of the Borg cube where obviously they can't communicate now, because obviously that part's blocked off. Picard finds his son, who's been assimilated now, and even right down to the design of the way that Jack's been assimilated. The Borg uniform is very similar to how the uniform or Borg uniform that Picard wore when he became Locutus. We then see the Borg Queen, obviously voiced by Alice Krige, but not played by her. So it's actually a body double, but it's still her voice. And then you kind of find out that basically that the reason why the Borg are basically decaying and falling apart is that a virus was given to the Borg. Now, most of you who are Star Trek fans will know how this happened in the season 7 two-part finale of Star Trek Voyager, titled Endgame, where the future Janeway, or at the future Admiral Janeway, lets itself be assimilated, while the Captain Janeway and the rest of the crew of Voyager end up using the cube slipstream to get back to Earth. But then she gets assimilated, and then obviously the Borg end up getting the virus. So I love the way that they tied in that particular part of that particular episode and that particular series. And that's one of the things that I've liked about this season, is that they've used stuff from previous movies, whether it's been the original Star Trek movies or the Next Generation movies, Deep Space Nine episodes, or things that have happened, or even Voyager, or even you hear little nods to Enterprise. They've all, or even Voyager, as I said before, they found a way of incorporating everything. And one of the things that I do like about this finale is that the way that all the loose ends are pretty much tied up, but then it leaves everything open for them to do another legacy series, which I'm hoping that Paramount do listen and do actually do. But again, we'll come on to that once we get to the end of this review, and I'll say my final thoughts of this particular finale. And then as well, we find out why the Borg are the way they are, and then obviously she wants to completely take over the human race. Riker and Worf basically find the central part of the core of the Borg, and it basically means that they have to destroy it, and which will cut off communications to the assimilated Starfleet officers. And then obviously Riker knowing that he'll die, but then as soon as they start doing that, the Borg start the ones who are in a decent state start attacking. And then Riker and Worf have to sit there and not sit there, we'll have to sit there and fight the Borg. And then obviously Worf goes into badass mode. And then there's a funny moment with Riker trying to use Worf's weapon, and then he has another weapon enclosed in that, and then there's a joke in that as well. On board the Enterprise, Dave, obviously with Geordi in command, they come to the decision with all of them agreeing with Troy and Beverly Crusher having to agree that they have to destroy the center of the Borg cube, because it either means sacrificing the away crew or basically saving millions upon millions of lives. So obviously that's what they have to sit there and do. And basically to do the calculations and the flying through the ship, it's basically, Geordi says it's basically going to be impossible, but Data believes that he can do it, but then they don't have any faith in him. I mean, he says that basically he's got a gut instinct that he thinks he can do it. So basically they have to fly into the Borg cube. Now this reminded me very reminiscent of Star Wars: The New Hope, when the X-Wings and the Millennium Falcon have to fly in to the Death Star to destroy the core. So it would end up blowing up the Death Star. It was very kind of familiar. And then I thought it was really funny how Deanna Troi says that she's picking up that someone's enjoying this, and obviously Data's enjoying it. Obviously we go back to the Titan, and obviously the people, the infected crew managed to escape. And then obviously their cloaking device gets destroyed. So basically, and then the space dock now, is all the shields are down. So now basically, all the different cities of Earth are being like targeted. And then Picard, now we flash back again back to the Borg cube. Picard tries to offer himself to the Borg Queen to save his son, but she's not kind of having it. Picard tries to sit there and talk to Jack, but he can't get through to him. So what Picard does is he ends up hooking himself back up to the Borg Collective, and then you get a little flashback of when he was being assimilated, and also taking footage from Star Trek First Contact, which I thought was absolutely awesome. He then tries to get through to Jack, and obviously Jack seems to be loving the peace and tranquility of being part of the hive mind. And then it's where Picard's fatherly instincts kind of kick in, and familiarities of not trying to fit in, and him obviously with the stuff with the Borg and what he went through, and then Picard saying, look, I'm not gonna go because you're your son and you're not alone. This basically wakes up Jack, And obviously, there's even another bit where Beverly Crusher, and while they're flying through, before they get to the core, Beverly Crusher starts firing all phasers and all the foam torpedoes towards them, taking out the turrets on the Borg ship, and everybody looks at Beverly Crusher, and then she says that, well, she said 20 years, she's not the same person. And I thought it was really great that we just associate her with just being the Doctor, but she's become a right badass, or badass, should I say, as the Americans say it. And I thought that was really, really kind of great in terms of obviously that they've given her a lot more meaty stuff to do. Obviously now with them destroying the core, they can't pick up the life signs of the away crew, of the away team, and then Deanna Tree basically works out where they are and manages to beam them off of the Borg cube, or Borg, yeah, well, it is a Borg cube, and then obviously that gets destroyed. Also, and then we go back to the Titan where we see the affected Borg crew manage to get back onto the bridge, and then it's basically a standoff between the infected and the uninfected. And obviously with the Borg cube destroyed, now they return to normal. So that's kind of great, a very satisfying ending, which kind of actually made total sense. We then get a fast forward to about a year, which was kind of great, where we see things like Jack's now joined Starfleet. Well, he's an ensign. We see Geordi, Riker, and Picard aboard the Enterprise D, and that was a nice kind of and that was great to see that closure. Even though the Enterprise D was obviously it's an old ship, it did save the day once again. And hearing the late Major Earl Barrett's voice, the ship's computer, was a kind of a nice touch. Beverly Crusher now goes back to Starfleet, and now she becomes an admiral. And then she devises a way to get rid of the Borg technology that was infected in the Starfleet officers, and even finds a way of rooting out the actual changelings now. So now they get caught now, which I thought was great. Again, as I said before, everything's tied up. There's no kind of loose ends, which was kind of great. We see Tuvok, or Captain Tuvok now, well, the real one, talking with Seven of Nine, and obviously she's ready to leave Starfleet because of the stuff that she's done, where she's broken protocols, and then Tuvok gives her a message from the late Captain Liam Shaw, and he basically gives I won't spoil the whole speech up, when you see it's kind of great, and he gives her a recommendation to be captain. And it was really great seeing Tim Russ as Tuvok again. I do wish we had seen more of the Voyager and even the Deep Space Nine crew, but you can't have everything. But it was really nice seeing him again, and the fact that they didn't kill him off, because obviously when we first see his first cameo, obviously it's not really him. And then we go back aboard the shuttlecraft, where the two admirals now, Beverly Crusher and Picard, and now Jack, are heading towards the Titan. We get a nice little. We find out that Jack's route into Starfleet's been fast tracked, obviously probably because of the Picard name. And then obviously we see the Titan, and now the Titan has been given a new name now. I won't sit there and say where it is, but all I'll say is that it does bring a tear to Picard's eye. It even brought a tear to my eye now, because obviously with the new name that it's kind of been given. Obviously now Jack is now part of the crew of the new ship. Well, new ship, but new name. So now Seven of Nine, obviously he's the captain, and Raffi's number one. Basically, I see use a new catchphrase. Right, Picard had "make it so," and then other things had "engage," but you don't hear what she says, because as she says it basically cuts off. We get a counselling session between Data and Deanna Trey, which was very funny, and with Riker as well when he pops in at the end of it. It was kind of really funny. There is a funny scene which some jumping back again with Worf, when after they've destroyed the Borg cube and then Worf's fast asleep. I thought that was really funny. We then go back to Guinan's bar, where we see the Next Generation crew all together again, and obviously and then they have to, and then we it's all laughter and all jokes, and I thought that was really great. And then Data, Geordi asked Data to say a speech, and Data decides to say a joke which people may remember. I think it's from the episode The Naked Now, where Data has to say this limerick about a woman. There was a woman from Venus, and he doesn't get to finish it in that Next Generation episode, and it happens again. And I thought that was really funny. Picard sits and says a heartfelt speech. We then get like a polka scene, which was kind of very similar from All Good Things. Well, very similar, exactly the same. And I thought that was a very touching ending. And when the camera work, and then we get the First Contact theme again, and then we see it panning around them playing polka or whatever or cards or whatever it is they're playing. And hearing that Star Trek theme kind of brought tears to my eyes, and reminiscent of the All Good Things finale, which is kind of great. We do get a post-credit scene after this involving Jack and a very familiar face that would be very familiar to Picard, which I won't spoil, but you'll see who it is, which I wasn't kind of expecting that particular character. So it will be very interesting to see how that's going to play out if they decide to do another spin-off series. But overall, I would honestly say that this is probably the best Star Trek finale of any Star Trek franchise that I've ever seen. This ticked off all the boxes where it came to action, tying up the actual loose ends, being funny with the right amount of funny with not being too cringeworthy, flashbacks to certain, nods to certain characters, to certain actors, alive or dead, and even characters as well. Reminiscent of different episodes from whether it's the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, even the original movies or the Next Generation movies. And wow, I've seen all 10 episodes. Now, for those of you who see my reviews, one of my greatest fears was whether or not they would be able to sustain the strong continuity of the strong story narratives from episode 1 to episode 10. And I can quite happily say that they pulled it off perfectly. Normally you have filler episodes in some TV shows, or some episodes that are weaker or stronger than others. And I can honestly say that I can't think of a weak episode at all. It was perfectly paced, good cinematography. I would say in places it was a little bit dark, but not enough to kind of spoil the enjoyment of it. If you're somebody coming new into the Star Trek franchise, there's something to it gives you a lot from if you're somebody new to the franchise. If you're somebody that's obviously that's a fan of the Star Trek franchise from day dot, like myself, there's plenty on offer there. A lot of fan service. Sometimes when movies or TV shows do nostalgia from previous movies or previous episodes, or even incarnations of things, sometimes it can be too nostalgic. But to me, the way I would describe this is that it was like making a perfect cake, in the sense that you've got the various different ingredients, and for me it felt like they put the right amount of ingredients at the right time, mixed it and baked it to perfection. And that would be my way of kind of describing every single episode, and it's made me definitely want to watch it all again, and for that matter, watch Star Trek: The Next Generation again. Definitely in Blu-ray. I've only got the first 2 seasons on Blu-ray, and I think I've got this Blue Star Trek Next Generation Blu-ray. I forgot what it's called, where they pick 2 or 3 of the best Star Trek episodes, and then I have this Blu-ray of the Best of Both Worlds parts 1 and 2, where they've turned into a movie. But I'm definitely gonna go back and start trying watching them again, and even because I know that with the Blu-rays of the Next Generation, they basically they've redone the special effects and then redone the episodes frame by frame. So obviously the colours look brighter, everything looks detailed, the colours pop, and even though the special effects look better. So I'm definitely gonna sit and try and finish off my collection so I can start watching it again. So it's made me nostalgic and wanted to watch the series again. I just recently watched Star Trek First Contact, which is a perfect tie-in to this movie. My overall thoughts of the Star Trek Season 3, for me, it feels like a follow-up to The Best of Both Worlds, and it also feels like a follow-up to Star Trek First Contact. So if you look at a Star Trek First Contact being a sequel to Star Trek The Best of Both Worlds, this feels like a sequel. This to me is the sequel to Star Trek First Contact. And although we've had the 4 Next Generation movies where we've had Star Trek Generations, Star Trek First Contact, Insurrection, and Nemesis, and obviously Nemesis being the one where obviously that didn't do very well, and obviously that had a bitter, sweet ending. I would say after watching Season 3 of this, to me, looking back on Nemesis, and when I eventually get back to watching Nemesis again, to me now, Nemesis doesn't feel so bad now, in a sense that this kind of rights the wrongs of what happened in Nemesis, and it doesn't. It could have taken the cheap route, in a sense of what some movies that will series, TV shows have done, is that when there's been a bad movie in that particular franchise, what they do is that they kind of sweep it under the carpet as if it never happened. But what I like about this, it acknowledges that Nemesis did happen, and it hasn't swept it under the carpet. So now with this season correcting all the faults and giving us a proper send-off and giving us proper story arcs and giving us proper strengthening all the characters, and even the characters that never got proper growth, like Beverly Crusher, or even Deanna Troi, or even in some of the other characters, even like Geordi, for example, or even not so much Data, for example. Right now, it feels like it's corrected all those kind of mistakes, and this, to me, even if we never see the Next Generation crew ever again, for me, this is the proper send off. So, like as I said before, Nemesis now doesn't feel so bad now, because now we've kind of got this, and I would say the actual, as I've said before, the cinematography, the actual pacing, the actual storyline, which all, to me, sometimes you can have MacGuffins that they put in the story for everything to kind of make sense, or there's plot holes. But what I do like about this is like everything is kind of explained. All the I's have been dotted, the T's have been crossed. So it's like everything kind of makes sense. So there's proper closure. You don't feel cheapened in the story. And as I said before, the pacing was just perfect. As for the season overall and the finale, to me, was absolutely perfect. It kind of brought tears to my eyes in places. Very strong emotions with characters, and especially for me, one of my favourite characters in Next Generation was Data, and obviously died in Nemesis, and obviously his conscience died in Season 1 of Picard, and then having him back, and then basically pretty much becoming pretty much human, even bringing in Law back in there, and then giving him closure. And as of all, having Data back, and the relationship between Data and Geordi, and seeing all the crew back together again was, for me, was very heartfelt, and the joy and the laughter. And I think what makes it really work with the Next Generation crew is that the fact that all the actors and actresses, they're all friends in real life, and they're a close-knit family, and they really are family from what the interviews and they've talked about, and obviously they have dinner together and Christmases together. So I think that definitely shows and pours through the screen when you're seeing the acting between the Next Generation crew. So yeah, it's bittersweet in a sense that knowing that now that it's ended, and in a sense that you want it to end, to have a good ending, but at the same time you don't want it to end. but it, obviously it kind of has to. But to me, this was kind of very good, and hats off to Terry Matalas for obviously for being a Star Trek fan and giving us the Star Trek we finally deserve. And if Paramount or the powers that be have any sense, they would put him in charge of the Star Trek franchise now and give him the reins behind him wanting to do a Star Trek Legacy series. I do know that I did read somewhere that, especially with this season, that they did give him more leeway in wanting to do what he wanted to do, and you can kind of see that between the difference between, obviously, I don't think he was involved in season 1, but he was involved in season 2. But you can definitely see the actual difference in terms of the quality of the episode. But as I said before, each of the 10 episodes feels like a movie quality, a big, not even a TV movie quality, I would say a cinema movie quality feel to the actual episodes. And it definitely would be right up there with the live action original Star Trek series movies, but and also the Next Generation and even the Kelvinverse 3 movies that came out of Star Trek. It definitely, in terms of the actual quality, and you can, looking back on from the Star Trek from the 60s to obviously the Next Generation in the 80s and Deep Space Nine towards the in the 90s and Voyager and Enterprise, and then you can tell the difference in terms of how the special effects, and obviously now going to 4K cameras and stuff and digital cameras, you can definitely tell the difference in terms of quality. And when you're watching, like, say, like Star Trek Discovery and Strange New Worlds, you can definitely see the actual movie quality pouring through onto the TV, into the TV series now, Star Trek. So obviously we've had a long gap in terms of Star Trek shows now. So now we have Star Trek Strange New World Season 2 starting soon. We have Star Trek Discovery Season 5, which is the final season next year. And then we have Star Trek Prodigy. And I'm trying to remember the other Star Trek show now. We've got I'm trying to remember, because I just watched season 3 the other day. Obviously that's about, obviously I might put that in the description because I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, we've got so many Star Trek shows now, and obviously we've got the Starfleet Academy. So like, and obviously now we can go back and watch the older franchise Star Trek shows. So long live Star Trek. And obviously now we've got the Section 31 event movie now, so we've got so much to look forward to now when it comes to Star Trek. So may long live and continue with Star Trek now. And as a Star Trek fan, I can't express how happy I feel with this season finale. It's just hard to express in words, really. Obviously for me, in watching it, it was the tears of joy in seeing all the Star Trek Next Generation crew all back with Picard, Riker, Geordi, Data, Worf, Beverly Crusher, and Deanna Troi, all seeing them all back, and even Major Barrett as the ship's computer. Again, absolutely fantastic. And to the people at Paramount and the people at Star Trek and Terry Matalas, a big thank you. And to all of you are hopefully are watching this review, I really hope you enjoyed all my reviews of Star Trek season 3, and I hope you enjoyed this season finale.